I think I'm like her in the sense that we don't indulge in the gossip. We don't listen to what people say about us. You just have to turn a blind eye to it. People are going to talk, and you can't be hurt by that. You can't listen to that. And she's really striving. These days, I live my whole life. It's easier to fall into that, like talking about someone else and when you stick up for someone, you're going out on a limb when a whole group is making fun of someone. But I've really tried to have some honor in my life.
He gave Blake yet another victory, basically allowing her to decide where she would be deposed, that she can be deposed at her attorney's office. Now, Baldoni's attorneys are arguing this is her using her celebrity status yet again to get her way, but the judge ultimately ruled in her favor. Now,
grab your drinks, besties, because this story is straight out of a Hollywood courtroom drama. Blake Lively has gone full throttle, issuing subpoenas to not one, not two, but a jaw-dropping 107 content creators. That's right, over 100 influencers, YouTubers, podcasters, and digital voices are now caught in her legal crosshairs. Why? According to Blake, they're part of a shadowy, untraceable smear campaign designed to destroy her reputation. But here's where things get messy. The law firm she's targeting, Brian Friedman's powerhouse practice, is pushing back hard, saying there's no paper trail, no contracts, and no payments to these so-called hired critics. In court, attorney Ellen Goff even told the judge that these supposed smoking guns simply don't exist.
Foremost, let's just get into how I found out about this subpoena, because I want you guys to really comprehend like fully how fake and gay everything in Hollywood is. And this is a perfect opportunity.
And I think what we need more of is compassion, understanding, and empathy. And I also believe it's important to, regardless of whether there is an oppressor or an oppressed, to acknowledge hurt where it exists and in whom it exists. And I think men are hurting overall. So I don't use the word toxic masculinity because I also think it's become enmeshed with identity politics.
But Blake isn't backing down. In fact, she's doubling down. So what exactly is she hoping to find? And is there really a conspiracy here, or is this just a Hollywood A-lister spiraling into paranoia? One thing's for sure, when you subpoena the internet fights back. And if you think this drama ends with no documents found, think again. This rabbit hole goes much, much deeper.
The social pressures were there, but I never felt like I belonged, which is something that I still struggle with. And I think has become one of the greatest blessings in disguise. Like I felt like an outsider. Like I would walk into a party and I would want to fit in.
So what's driving Blake to wage war on half the internet? Her legal team is painting a dramatic picture. A coordinated smear campaign allegedly orchestrated by Wayfair and its allies, using Brian Friedman, a lawyer known for representing media powerhouses, as the puppet master. Blake claims this isn't just random bad press. She says it's retaliation for her previous complaints about misconduct, pointing fingers at Friedman's so-called network of content creators and media personalities. But when her lawyers demanded records, Friedman's team dropped a bombshell. There's nothing to hand over. No invoices, no agreements, no emails, no contracts. Zero. And if you've been following this saga, you know that no isn't a word Blake Lively likes to hear. So instead of walking away, she's expanded her theory, now accusing an entire online ecosystem of participating in a digital takedown. But here's the thing, without hard evidence, her retaliation claims start to look less like a courtroom case and more like a Hollywood conspiracy script. Still, Blake's not backing down. And the judge? Well, let's just say his patience might be wearing thin, but what he says next could change everything. If you thought this was just another day in court, think again. Judge after judge has now been pulled into this spectacle, and in the latest hearing, things got downright spicy. Attorney Ellen Goff explained that the so-called evidence Blake's team wants doesn't exist, and the judge didn't seem surprised. In fact, he hinted that much of Blake's case might be overreaching, asking why she's fishing for documents that simply don't exist. When the judge pressed for justification, Blake's side doubled down, saying the lack of evidence is suspicious in itself. But here's where it gets interesting. the judge seemed to question whether these subpoenas were even necessary, subtly suggesting that Blake's team might be on a fishing expedition. And if that wasn't enough drama, Goff exposed a glaring timeline problem. Friedman wasn't even retained until December 2024, months after Blake claims this campaign began. So how does she connect dots that don't even line up? That's the million-dollar question. But instead of conceding, Blake's side shifted strategies again, adding trolls, bots, and paid communications to their ever-growing list of accusations. It's starting to feel like the goalposts are moving fast. If you want drama, here it is. Blake's team demanded everything: contracts, bank records, payment logs, emails, anything that could prove there was a digital takedown campaign. But Free Reedman's team had a simple, devastating response. We don't have any. They told the court there were no agreements with content creators, no payments to influencers, no invoices for digital services, and no communications that suggest any kind of coordinated smear campaign. Zero. Nada. And that wasn't just for one category, it was for all of them. In fact, when the judge reviewed Blake's first 4 major requests, he practically dismissed them on the spot, siding with Free Reedman because there simply was nothing to hand over. You'd think that would end it, right? Not with Blake. Instead of accepting the loss, she doubled down, expanding her theory and broadening her demands. And here's the kicker. In doing so, she risked making this whole case look less like a legal claim and more like a personal crusade. But if the paper trail doesn't exist, why is Blake so convinced it does? And what happens when a court realizes a star might just be chasing ghosts? This is where things get even wilder. At one point, Blake's team pointed the finger at Jed Wallace, a PR fixer with deep industry connections, claiming he orchestrated the smear campaign against her. But here's the plot twist. Wallace was dismissed from the case, gone. Yet, in court, her team was still implying his involvement. Confused? You're not alone. Even the judge questioned how she could keep blaming someone who's not even a party to the lawsuit anymore. This is where you start to see the shifting sands of Blake's accusations. First it was Wayfair, then it was Frey Reedman, then Wallace, and now she's claiming it's an entire network of trolls and bots. It's like every time one theory collapses, a new one pops up. And if you're wondering what Frey Reedman thinks of all this, he called Blake's claims innuendo and allegations without facts. Ouch. But here's the real tea. If Blake keeps changing her story, does that make her case stronger, or does it make it look like she's grasping at straws? And could that hurt her credibility when this finally goes before a jury? If you've ever wanted to see a judge throw polite shade, this hearing delivered. At one point, the judge openly questioned whether Blake's subpoenas were even appropriate, hinting that they were overbroad and perhaps an invasion of attorney-client privilege. And when Blake's team argued that an untraceable smear campaign was proof enough, the judge clapped back with logic. If you can't even find evidence of it online, how is it defamatory? That's the kind of statement that makes a courtroom go silent. Even more shocking, the judge reminded everyone that public statements by a lawyer defending their clients aren't defamatory, they're protected speech. Translation: Blake can't sue Frey Reedman just because she doesn't like what he said. This might explain why Blake's team keeps chasing new angles. They're trying to keep this case alive. But judges don't like fishing expeditions, and this one made it clear. If there's no hard evidence, there's no case. Still, Blake's not walking away. In fact, her next move might be the boldest and riskiest one yet. Here's the part that stunned everyone. Blake didn't just subpoena Frey Reedman or Wayfair. She went after 107 content creators. That's right, she's dragging influencers, YouTubers, and even podcasters into this mess. Her goal? To unmask anyone who might have been part of the supposed smear campaign. But critics say this isn't about evidence, it's about intimidation. By targeting so many creators, Blake risks being seen as weaponizing the legal system to silence her critics. And the public? They're not loving it. Social media has exploded with backlash, with many accusing her of trying to bully the very people who talk about her online. Here's where it gets even messier. Many of these creators have already filed motions to quash the subpoenas, and the judge suggested their arguments might actually be valid. If those motions succeed, Blake could end up empty-handed. Again. And let's be real, the optics of a multimillionaire actress suing small creators, not great. But maybe Blake doesn't care about optics anymore. Maybe this is personal. If you're wondering why this feels so chaotic, it's because Blake's claims keep evolving. First, she said it was retaliation for her complaints. Then she said Friedman used his network of media figures to defame her. Now, she's talking about trolls, bots, and something called paid communications. Her theories have ballooned into what critics call a conspiracy spiral. And while that might play well in a headline, it's a nightmare in court. Because here's the truth. In California, retaliation cases require proof of a clear connection, and Blake's timeline is falling apart. She claims the campaign started 9 months after her last complaint. 9 months. That's a hard sell for causation. Plus, Friedman argues that even if his clients or associates had opinions about Blake, that doesn't make it defamatory. The law protects people's right to defend themselves publicly, even if Blake doesn't like what they're saying. But instead of narrowing her case, Blake seems to be widening it, dragging in more names, more theories, and more targets. It's a risky play, and one that could backfire spectacularly. If this was supposed to fix Blake's image, it's doing the opposite. Her scorched earth legal strategy has turned her into a trending topic for all the wrong reasons. Fans are questioning her motives, critics are calling her lawsuit delusional, and creators are rallying together to push back. And let's not forget, this is Blake Lively we're talking about, someone who has spent years crafting a picture-perfect America's sweetheart image. That image is cracking. Because here's the ugly truth. Subpoenaing over 100 creators makes it look like she's trying to silence dissent, not seek justice. And once you lose control of the narrative in the court of public opinion, good luck getting it back. Even Ryan Reynolds, usually her PR armor, hasn't stepped in to smooth things over. Could it be that even he thinks this has gone too far? Or is this a united front, with the two of them doubling down together? Either way, Blake is risking her career, her image, and her credibility, and she still hasn't gotten what she wants. Proof. So, where does this circus go from here? Legally, the judge might still compel Friedman's firm to produce any non-privileged documents, but if those documents don't exist, what then? At some point, Blake will have to accept that she can't subpoena her way to proof that isn't there, but will she? Or will she keep expanding this crusade, dragging more names, more creators, and more theories into the spotlight? And here's the biggest question of all. What happens if this isn't about retaliation or defamation at all? What if this is about control? About a Hollywood star trying to bend the narrative back in her favor, no matter the cost? For now, one thing is clear. This case has gone far beyond a legal dispute. It's a cultural flashpoint, pitting celebrity power against the messy, unpredictable world of online voices. And whether Blake wins or loses in court, she's already lost something far bigger, her untouchable image. But is this just the beginning of her fight, or the start of her fall? Stay tuned.